Living forever, huh? I mean, it's an idea that people have been thinking about forever, right? But today we're actually going to like dive into whether it could actually, happen.
Well, at least getting a lot closer.
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot closer. So we're looking at this article. It's called Humans Could Live Forever, and it's all about this thing called longevity escape velocity.
LEV.
LEV, right. So are you ready to like jump into a future where like maybe old age is just like not a thing anymore?
I think it's a fascinating concept, and it's really gaining some momentum, in the scientific community. And the article does a really good job of kind of explaining that core idea of LEV. It's
Yeah.
basically saying that as medicine and technology get better and better,
Yeah.
we might actually be able to repair and rejuvenate our bodies.
Like faster than we age.
Yeah, like faster than aging can break us down.
Wow. So like outrunning time.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pretty wild idea.
Totally. And the article mentioned like some really big names who are like super optimistic about it. Like, wasn't there a geneticist? George,
George Church.
yeah, George Church. He thinks LEV could be real, like while we're still alive.
Yeah, in our lifetimes. And there's Saurav Sinha. He's like an investor who's like all about longevity research.
Yeah.
And he's even more,
Optimistic.
yeah, he thinks we could get there in just a few decades.
Wow.
They're both pointing to all the like crazy progress that's happening with, gene editing and stuff like that.
Like changing our cells and stuff.
Exactly. Cellular rejuvenation. I think that's like the key to, making LEV happen.
Okay, so that's the optimistic side, but I'm guessing not everyone feels that way.
Right. The article also quotes this guy, Thomas Pearls. He studies people who live to be like 100.
Centenarians.
Right. And he's pretty skeptical about, actually achieving immortality.
Yeah, I can see why.
He seems more focused on extending what he calls health span, like
Mhm.
the number of years we live in good health.
Oh, I see. So it's not just about living longer. It's about like the quality of those extra years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He thinks we should be trying to understand like how people there's this term super agers. It's people who are over 80 but they like function like they're way younger, mentally.
Wow, like they have the memory of a like 50-year-old or something.
Yeah. It's amazing. He thinks we should figure out what their secret is.
So, like, what's the point of living to 150 if, like, the last 50 years are, like, not so great?
Exactly. Quality over quantity.
Okay, I get that. But the article also had this, like, mind-blowing comparison. I think it was by Aubrey who's, like, a big name in LEV research.
Oh yeah, he compares how we accept aging to accepting like bad weather.
Bad weather.
Yeah,
Right.
like we don't just like give up and say, "Oh, well, it's raining, guess I'll stay inside
We'll
forever."
try to, like, protect ourselves from it.
Exactly. We wear raincoats, we use umbrellas, we build shelters.
So he's saying we shouldn't just accept aging. We should, like, fight it.
Yeah. Like we fight any other disease, we should be actively trying to, prevent it or reverse it.
But isn't aging, like, natural? Disease isn't.
Right, but think about it this way. Aging is like the biggest risk factor for pretty much every major disease out there.
That's true.
So if you can, address aging itself, you're basically addressing the root cause of like a ton of health problems.
Okay, that makes sense. So what are the people, who are working on LEV, what are they actually doing to fight aging?
Well, the article talked about this group, the Longevity Escape Velocity Foundation. They're doing research on robust mouse rejuvenation. Have you heard of that?
Robust mouse rejuvenation. It sounds intense.
It is. They're
Yeah.
basically trying to like turn back the clock on aging in mice.
Whoa, really? How?
Well, robust. In this case, it means they're going for like big changes, not just small improvements.
Like significant rejuvenation.
Yeah. And they're trying all sorts of things, stem cell treatments, therapies that like lengthen your telomeres. Have you heard of telomeres?
Vaguely. They're like part of our DNA, right?
Yeah. They're like these protective caps on the ends of our chromosomes, but they get shorter as we age.
Oh, I see. So they're trying to like keep those telomeres long.
Exactly. And they're even using this drug, rapamycin. It's been shown to like extend lifespan in animals.
Wow. So they're really like pulling out all the stops.
Oh, yeah, they're serious about this.
Hmm.
And, the article even mentioned how AI is being used now, too, to help develop, like, anti-aging treatments.
Really?
Yeah. There's this company, Gero, that's using AI to, like, sift through tons of data, and figure out which drugs might work best to target aging.
Oh, wow. So like AI is speeding up the process.
Exactly. AI can process information way faster than humans can. It's crazy.
It's amazing, but it also feels like we're like entering this totally new territory, like if we can actually manipulate aging, like what does that mean for, for humanity?
It's a huge question. It's like the biggest question of all. And it really gets to the heart of the ethical debate surrounding LEV. I mean, it's exciting, but it also brings up all these deep questions about what it means to be human and, how the world would change if we could all live so much longer.
Like, would it even be a good thing?
Exactly. And that's what we need to really explore. It really makes you think differently about health and well-being. If we can actually control aging, it changes everything. Our priorities, healthcare, our whole idea of what it means to, live a good life.
It's like a total game changer. And the article, it kind of went back and forth between these two ideas, right? Like, should we be going for like radical life extension through LEV?
Like immortality?
Yeah. Or should we be more focused on like improving the quality of the years we already have?
Right. That's a good question. And, the article quotes this philosopher, Nick Bostrom. He argues that extending healthy lifespans, that's like a moral imperative.
A moral imperative, like we have to do it.
Yeah, he believes we have a duty to alleviate suffering and, aging with all the diseases and stuff that comes with it.
It causes a lot of suffering.
Exactly.
But then there's Thomas Pearls, right? He was like more cautious. He said, yeah, LEV has potential, but we shouldn't just focus on living longer if we don't know how to age well.
Right. He brought up Jean Calment. She was the longest living person ever recorded.
How old does she live to?
122. But her last years, they weren't easy. She's kind of isolated and, frail.
Oh, so it's not just about adding years. It's about adding like good years.
Exactly. What's the point of living to be 150 if you're, not enjoying it?
Yeah, I see his point. But even if we could solve that problem and live healthy for centuries, I mean, what would that do to society? The article talked about resource allocation and population growth.
A lot to think about. Imagine if retirement didn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
People could work for way longer.
Centuries.
Yeah. It would change the whole workforce, the economy, everything.
And what about families? I mean, generations would overlap for forever.
It would definitely be different. Grandparents, parents, children, grandchildren, all alive at the same time for way longer.
It's wild to even imagine.
It is. And then you've got the political and social stuff too. How do you govern a society where people could be in power for hundreds of years?
Right. It's we'd have to rethink all our systems.
Totally. I mean, we're talking about a fundamental restructuring of everything.
And it's not just practical stuff either. It's it makes you question what it even means to be human, you know?
Our whole understanding of life, death, purpose, love. It could all change if death wasn't a guarantee anymore.
It's exciting, but it's also kind of scary, are we messing with something we shouldn't be messing with?
I think that's a valid concern.
Yeah.
But the article did point out that even the scientists who are working on LEV, they're really aware of these ethical questions.
And they're not just blindly charging ahead.
No, they know this is serious stuff. It's not just about scientific progress. It's about shaping the future of all of humanity.
So it sounds like they're approaching it carefully.
Yeah, I think they are. They're having these conversations, asking the tough questions, and that's important.
So it's not just about whether we can achieve immortality. It's about whether we should and what kind of world we want if we do.
Exactly. And that brings us to another interesting question. What would we do with all that extra time?
Right. If we could live for hundreds of years, how would we use that time?
Would we be more careful, knowing we have so much more to lose? Or would we be more daring, knowing we have more time to take risks and chase our dreams?
It's it really gets to the heart of who we are, what's important to us.
Yeah. If you could live for centuries, what would be your purpose? What would you want to achieve?
This is a deep question. And I guess it's one we should all be asking ourselves, even if LEV never happens.
It's a question worth thinking about. It's not just about how long we live, but how we live those years.
Exactly. And that brings up something else that, kind of worries me. The article mentioned this idea that messing with aging, it could backfire.
Oh, yeah. It's what if we get rid of the diseases we know, but it opens us up to new ones that we haven't even thought of yet.
That's kind of terrifying.
It is. It's like we're trying to solve one problem, but we might end up creating a whole bunch of new
It's
ones.
like a Pandora's box kind of thing.
Exactly. And that just shows how complex this whole thing is.
We're really venturing into the unknown.
We are. But even with all the risks, there's still this sense of like wonder and possibility.
It's like we're on the edge of something huge.
We are. We're like redefining what it means to be human.
This whole deep dive into LEV, it's like blown my mind.
It's definitely a lot to take in. And even though the article didn't give us like all the
You
answers,
didn't pretend to, right?
no. But it did a really good job of laying out like all the different sides of this issue and making us think about those like big questions.
It's clear that LEV, it's not just science. It's like a whole societal and philosophical thing. It makes us look at our values and like what we want the future to be.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's a journey we're all on together,
Oh,
whether
wow.
we like it or not.
It does feel like we're like at a turning point or something,
Yeah.
Like all this LEV research, it's not just about science anymore, right? It's like making us rethink what it means to be human.
It really is.
Yes.
I mean, for like all of human history, death has been the one thing we know is coming, the like end of the story. And now we're talking about changing that, like rewriting the whole story of life.
Yeah, and that's where it gets like really crazy because it's not just can we live longer, it's should we? Like what kind of world are we making if we figure out how to like stop aging?
That's a good point. And the article had said that LEV is like a mirror, It shows us what we really value. Like if we're just focused on living as long as possible, what does that say about us?
Right, like are we so busy trying to not die that we forget to like actually live?
That's a really deep question. And it goes back to what we were talking about before. Like, do we want to live forever? Or do we just want to like make the most of the time we have?
Right, quality over quantity. But if we could live for like hundreds of years, would we even want to do the same things? Would we be like more scared to take risks?
Maybe, or maybe we'd be more like bold. Like we'd have more time to try things, to fail, to start over.
Yeah, like what could you achieve if you had centuries to like work on your goals?
Exactly. It's almost like LEV gives us this like blank slate, a chance to like redefine what it means to live a good life.
But that's also kind of scary, right? Because then it's like, well, what does matter? What do I want my life to be about?
It's a big question, and I think it's one we should all be asking, whether LEV happens or not.
Yeah, you're right. It's like LEV is making us think about these things, even if it never actually like works.
Exactly. It's pushing us to like confront our own mortality and think about what's really important.
Wow. This whole deep dive, it's really given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's amazing that we're even having these conversations, Like this is stuff people have been wondering about forever.
And now it might actually be possible.
I know, it's wild. And as we keep like pushing the limits of science, it's more important than ever to talk about these things, to make sure we're using this technology wisely. The future of aging, it's full of possibilities, but it's also like a little scary.
Yeah.
And it's up to all of us to decide what kind of future we want.
So for our listeners who are like totally hooked on this LEV stuff now, where can they learn more?
Well, the Longevity Escape Velocity Foundation, they've got a ton of information on their website, all about their research and like the science behind LEV. And there's tons of articles and books and, other podcasts out there that like go deep into the ethics and like the big picture stuff.
Perfect. We'll link to some of those in the show notes. And, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one last question to think about. Like, if you could live for centuries, what would you do with all that time? What kind of mark would you want to leave on the world?
It's a good question. And remember, it's not just about how long you live, it's about how you live that life. So make every moment count.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of LEV. It's been pretty mind-blowing. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep living your best life.